Yo, what's going on guys? Tanmay here for Simple Snippets and welcome back to the 5th video tutorial under the portfolio website development course which we've been going through since the past couple of days. And in this video tutorial, this is sort of like the part 2 of understanding the Bootstrap grid system. So in this video tutorial, we're going to be understanding how we can control the responsive behavior of the Bootstrap grid system depending upon what size of device we are working on. So we will be using some classes, inbuilt Bootstrap classes, which will control how the columns will shift their position depending upon what size of device you are working on. So before we start off with today's topic, a quick recap about the previous video tutorial, that is understanding Bootstrap grid system, which was the part 1. So we started off with their documentation, their official website. So we went on to their website on getbootstrap.com and we started off with the layout wherein we understood what are containers, and then we came to the grid system. So here we saw a basic example. We actually used this code into our project also, and we broke it down and we understood some basics, that is containers provide a means to center and horizontally pad your site content. So basically we have a main division with a class of container. So whenever I'm talking about container, rows and columns, these are basically inbuilt classes which are provided in Bootstrap CSS file, and we are directly going to be applying those classes onto our divisions or sections into our website so that those properties, those responsive properties and grid system properties come into our website and get applied to our divisions. Okay. So containers, rows, columns, whatever we are talking about are all classes which are predefined and we are simply going to be using them. Okay. So we understood that the first division has to be a container inside which we have rows. So rows are wrappers for columns and each column has horizontal padding. And then we also understood that the Bootstrap grid system works on a concept of dividing the entire screen into 12 parts. So all this we saw in the previous video. I'm not going to get into a lot of detail, but this was just a quick recap. If you have missed the previous video, make sure you watch it. If you're a beginner, definitely check that video out before starting off with this, because this is sort of like the continuation and part 2 of that video. So let's quickly jump to the code and see what we've achieved in the previous video. So if you have watched the previous video, this is how our code looks like, and to actually see it in the output, we are basically using the live server plugin, and this is how our website was looking in the previous video. We added 12 columns in one single row. So the aqua blue color is basically the entire container. The green margin or green border basically is for the row, and the red border is for the individual columns. So in our style.css, this is what we defined. So for the complete row, we have a green border, you can see. For columns, we have a red border. So if I actually remove one of them, you'll understand. You can see the border is gone, right? So we are just using it so that we can actually visualize it, we can see it properly. And then we have 12 individual divisions with the class of call. Okay, so call is basically column, row is obviously row, and then we have container. Okay, so these are 3 predefined classes as I mentioned in the Bootstrap CSS file. And now what we want to understand is how we can control this responsive behavior. So right now if you go on the website and if you try to shrink this, you can see the columns are automatically shrinking, and once they cannot contain the entire content, that is once these numbers or whatever content inside these individual columns are not able to fix or contain themselves into that small space, they break down and form another row, right? So if I just shrink it more, you can see 11 and 12 came down. If I shrink it even more, even 10 is coming down, and if I shrink it even more, 9, 7, 8, everything will be coming down. But you can see that there is no horizontal scrolling. We don't have to scroll to the right? So this is that responsive behavior. But now, as I mentioned, we want to control this responsive behavior. Also, before moving ahead, if you're wondering that can we add more divisions with this same call class, because I mentioned that in the Bootstrap grid system, we treat the entire screen or the entire container as a set of 12 parts, right? So if you're wondering, let me just show you, you can add actually more columns also. So I'm going to say 13, 14, 15. And if you see, all of them are coming in one single row. Now, if you're wondering why is this happening and why are they not coming on the next row, because as I mentioned, we treat the container as 12 parts. It is because right now we are not specifying how much size one particular column should take. Right now we are using the very basic class, that is call, which is provided. And by default, this call class, what it does is it makes the division responsive in such a way that whatever content it has, it will take that much space. Okay. So if we had only 2 divisions right now, so let me just erase all of this. If I cut all of this, you can see that the first and the second division, that is this division with call and this division with call, will take equal spaces and it will expand on the entire screen. Okay. By the way, right now we are using the container class. We are not using the container fluid. That's why we have this left margin and right margin. If you want, I can use that container fluid class also. So if I use container FLUID, you can see the entire screen is now utilized. But right now let's stick to container, and these my container, my rows and my calls are our custom styles, which are just adding the border and the background color. Okay. So yeah, coming back to the call class, you can see that as you add n number of columns, that is n number of divisions with this call class, automatically the size is equally distributed. That is, the width is equally distributed among these different columns in one single row. Okay. But this is not something that is controllable by us right now, right? This is still responsive. But what we want is, we want these columns to move or change positions depending upon a particular size of the screen. So what we want basically is, for a mobile system, we want the columns to be stacked one below each other, but on a desktop, we want them to be just like this, side by side. So how do we control this? So this is where that Bootstrap breakpoints come into picture. Now, if you've seen the previous video, we know that in Bootstrap, we have 5 different predefined sizes. We have XS, which is extra small, which means that the width of the device, or a desktop or a smartphone or a tablet or a hybrid device, has to be less than 576 pixel. For a small device, the width of the screen should be 576 to 768 pixel. For a medium, it has to be 768 to 992. For large screen devices, it has to be 992 to 1200. And for Excel devices, it has to be greater than 1200. So these are predefined breakpoints in Bootstrap CSS, which are defined by media queries. And media queries are some special queries in CSS which apply to particular sizes. So that's how Bootstrap achieves this responsive behavior using the container, row and column combination. Okay. So let me just quickly add these 12 columns back. Okay. So now I have added all these 12 columns. And now what we want is, we want to control the behavior of these columns depending upon the size. So right now, if I just hit F12, you can see we get the Google Developer Tools in Chrome. You can also right click and click on Inspect Element, and you'll get this Elements tab, wherein you can also see the entire code, and you can hover onto the division, you can hover onto the individual columns to see their properties. If you click on them, if you come below, you can see the styles applied to that particular division. Okay. So right now we don't want to get into a lot of details about that. Right now we are more interested in the size of this device. So right now my resolution of my desktop is 1920 by 1080. So if I just move this screen, you can see on the top there is the width that is changing, right? You can see over here. So it is right now at 1538, or you can increase and decrease it. So 1538 or 1530, which means it is greater than 1200, which means that we are on an extra large device, right? So we can have specific styling depending upon what size of screen we are on. So that's where Bootstrap has its power of responsiveness, wherein we can control how these columns change their positions, right? So how do we do that? So let's try to actually do that. So this is where the individual classes of individual sizes come into picture. So I'm going to write a class over here right now. I'm going to say call -XL-1. Okay. Let me just change all the call to this same class, and I'll explain to you what exactly it is happening. Now we have 12 divisions, right? So just keep that in mind. Let's come to the code and let's see what is exactly happening. Okay, so nothing has happened so far. Now I'm going to shrink the screen, and right now we are still at an XL size, right? Because it is 1500, and large size will start when we go below 1200. So make sure you have those pixel sizes in your mind, and we are shrinking now, and let's go to 1200 now. And now you can see as soon as I go below 1200, that is 1199, you can see all of the columns have stacked up in a particular vertical fashion. So how did this happen? So what I did over here is, this class, that is call-lg, is specifying how this division should size up on an XL device or larger than XL device. And then this extra -1 is telling that this division should take up one space on an XL device or larger than that. Now we already know that the Bootstrap grid system divides the entire screen or the things that are in the container into 12 parts, right? And we have 12 divisions. So when I say call XL1, it means that on a XL device or larger than XL device, this division, in fact all the divisions right now which have this class call XL1, should take up one space. So now you might be wondering, okay, so this is for Excel device. What if we come to a smaller device than Excel? What if we come to large? So that's where the changes happen, right? You saw that once we crossed that 1200 mark, everything got stacked up in one single vertical column. So which means that we have to also define what happens when the screen size is shrunk to large. Okay. So now what I can do is I can just copy this, I can paste it again, and I can say that for a large device, that is LG, so we have these abbreviations of LG, XL, MD, SM and XS. So I'm saying for a large device also, I want this division to take up only one space. So I'm gonna just copy this, and of course you can add multiple classes, right? You can add multiple CSS classes to one particular HTML element. So that's what we are doing over here. So I'm gonna copy paste it over here and here and here. And now you can see the first three divisions on a large screen device are also taking one space. So that's why 1, 2 and 3 are not coming vertically, because what we just said that even on a large device, so large device is between 992 and 1200. Right now you can see the size is 1174, which is between this range, right? So on this device, what we are saying is we want the columns to take only one space out of the 12. So the first three divisions are taking up 3 spaces, which means that 9 spaces are left over here. So now you can see that I am controlling the individual behavior of these divisions. So I'm just going to paste this call LG1 for all the divisions, and what I'm going to do is I'm just going to actually remove these 6 divisions. Let's just keep 6 divisions. Okay. So now you can see that on a large device and an Excel device, what we have specified is that division or that column should take up only one space. And we know that, as I mentioned, Bootstrap divides this entire grid into 12 parts. So we are currently only allocating one part to one division, and we have 6 divisions. So that's why 6 divisions are left out over here. So how do we change that? We just tell that this division should take up 2 spaces. So you can see division 1 has increased its size. We change over here to 2, 2, 2 and 2. And now you can see the entire space is being occupied of the container of the entire row. So now let's shrink to a large device. So we are on Excel right now. Let's shrink below 1200 and let's see what happens. So when we shrink below 200, you can see we have specified that on a large device, this division should take up only one space, one space, one space and one space. And since we have 6 divisions, it will take up 6 spaces and 6 will be left out. So again, 6 of them are left out over here. So let's change to 2, 2, 2, 2 and 2. Okay, so far so good. We are understanding how we can control it on an Excel screen and on a large screen, right? Everything is pretty clear now. So let's see what happens when we go to a medium device. So medium device is below 992, right? So let's go below 992. And you can see once we go below 992, so this is 994 right now, 995, 993. And once we go below 992, again everything stacks up. So this size is typically for a hybrid device or a tablet, a large screen tablet. So here what we want is, we want the first 3 columns to be stacked up and then the next 3 columns to be stacked up in 2 different rows. So what we can do is, again we have to apply another class. I'm going to copy this and paste it over here, and I'm going to say call MD. So we are now working for MD, right? So we will say MD4, and I'm just going to copy paste this over here, over here and over here. So what I'm saying is, for the first 3 divisions, when we are on a MD device, medium sized device, the first division should occupy 4 spaces, the second division should occupy 4 spaces, and the third division should occupy 4 spaces. Now if we take the total of 4 plus 4 plus 4, it will give us 12, which means that the first entire row will be filled, right? So there will be no space for these 3 divisions. So let's see how that works. So there you go, you can see now we are on an MD device because we are less than 992, right? And the first 3 divisions have taken up the entire space. So at any given point of time, the entire container is of 12 parts. So even though we are changing the size, the 12 parts ratio is in percentage, so that doesn't change. So 4 parts for the first column, 4 parts for the second, and 4 parts for the third. Similarly, we can just copy this and paste it over here and over here, and there you go. Now it is stacked up in a 3 by 3 kind of scenario, right? So 3 columns over here, 3 columns over here, and we have 2 rows now. Essentially we have one single row only, but because we have specified that one division will take up 4 spaces on a medium device, the first 3 divisions take up all the space. So these divisions have no other option other than to going down on the next row. Okay, so that's how this is controllable. Now that's how we have controlled it so far till a medium device. Let's shrink to a small device. So when we go on a small device, again everything is gonna get stacked up. So for a small device, let's change the situation, and what we'll do is we have to use SM, and we will say we want 6 kind of scenario. So we will probably have 3 rows, right? And now you can see the first 2 divisions occupy 6 and 6 parts. So 12 parts over here, so that becomes the first row. Then we have again 6 and 6, which becomes 12. So 3 and 4. And then we have 5 and 6. And lastly for excess, that is less than 576. So let's go below 576. Everything is stacked up, and you can see even the margins from the left and right are erased. That's because by default Bootstrap system removes the margin, because on a mobile phone, if you add margins from the left and right, then the content will be very much squeezed up, right? So on a mobile phone, we want to use the maximum area. So that's why Bootstrap is smart enough to remove those margins. So right now we have arrived at a smartphone kind of scenario. So that's why we are maximizing the usage of space. Okay, so this was how to control the grid system at a very basic level. One point to understand is that the grid system or Bootstrap framework is a mobile first platform. So everything is happening for a smaller device and above. So whenever we are saying call XL2, basically we are applying this class for a XL device and above. Okay. Similarly, if we are saying call LG2, so this 2 parts ratio is applied for a large device and anything above that. So if we don't have this call XL2 on a XL device, by default the LG CSS will be applied. So just to make it clear, let's erase these 2 things. Okay, let's erase these 2 things, and let's erase these 2 things again. Let me just erase all of this, and things will be very clear. Now let's actually go back to a full size. So now you can see, even though we are on a Excel screen, you can see the size is 1664, which is greater than 1200, right? So even though we have this, we are still applying the medium device sizing, right? Because on a medium device, we want 4 parts. So 4 plus 4 plus 4 is 12. So the first 3 divisions are on the first row, and then rest of them get stacked up below. Now this is happening because we don't have any styling for a large device and we don't have any styling for an XL device. So that's why by default, the next largest styling is for medium device. So that gets applied to this entire row and column system. Okay, so if you want to have particular styling for larger screens, you have to specify it over here. Otherwise, the styling of the smallest column, that is the sizing of the smallest column, is by default applied. So even if I remove this column MD over here and MD over here and MD over here, you can see immediately 1 and 2 because we have 6 parts. So the first 2 divisions takes up the first 2 places. So I'll have to remove all of this to see that in working. And now you can see the styling of the small device is applied to the Excel screen. So we are on an Excel screen, but still the styling of the small device is being applied because that's the only thing that we are using over here. Okay, so that's it for this video, guys. I just wanted to show you how you can use these different classes to control the shifting of columns, to control the responsive behavior on different devices. One more thing that you can do over here is when you go into the Google Developer Tools, you can toggle the device toolbar. So if you click on it, you can change the screen into a mobile screen. If you click on it, it will come back to a desktop screen. And over here, you can also select the phone. I have a Pixel 2, so I can check for a Pixel 2 screen. Okay. So let me just actually get back all the classes. And now if I toggle it up, we are on a Pixel 2, which has a width of 411, which is basically coming under the excess category, right? Because that's why everything is stacked up over here. Let's select an iPad Pro, which has 1024, which is a large screen, right? 1024 comes under this category. So that's why everything is stacked up in one particular row, because every division is taking 2 spaces and we have total 12 spaces and 6 divisions. Then I can change the mobile devices. In fact, you can add some more mobile devices over here also, depending upon what you have. If I go on an XS 6P, if I go on a iPhone X, iPad. So iPad, you can see, is a 768 width. So 768 width comes under medium device, right? So that's why we have this sizing applied. So 444 is 12. So the first 3 divisions come up in first row. 4, 5, 6 come in the next row. So you can toggle this device toolbar to switch between mobile phones and your desktop screen. And you can also select your specific phone. So if you're checking for your phone itself, you can check it out. I have a Google Pixel 2, so I usually check it on Google Pixel 2. Okay, so that's it for this video, guys. I hope you got a basic idea about how to use these specific inbuilt classes which are provided in Bootstrap, and I hope you've understood these Bootstrap breakpoints and how these classes apply to change the entire orientation of these columns and to make it more responsive. So in the next video, we will start off with the website development using these basic concepts. These are the primary concepts that we need actually, and then we will learn a few more things as we move along when we start with the development of the actual website. But the understanding of grid system and the responsive behavior was very important, so that's why these two videos were necessary for you guys to understand. So I hope you've understood the basics, and if you like this video, please give it a thumbs up. Do let me know in the comments how this video was. Do share it with your friends as well, and I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.